Hey guys, Saf here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the SYLVAN Watchers champion options for the upcoming faction wars. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be dropping either tomorrow or Friday this week sometime, and we will be having to complete a new faction wars dungeon, 21 stages, including those 3 bosses that are actually quite difficult. Now if you're like a player like me who has completed all of the faction wars, has got all the different crypts open, then what we'll probably expect to see is a few extra bonus rewards. So we'll probably get another row like this, so it's actually quite nice. We get a free legendary book, a free void shard, you know, we basically can get all those. It'll be one of these faction crypts. Now from the videos and pretty much what I thought was going to happen, the bosses are going to be the ignore defense boss. They like throwing this in. It's the hardest boss of all the faction wars bosses. It's the one that you see in the Shadowkin. I think it's also the one in the Undead Hordes, where basically the boss ignores the defense of one of your champions, and obviously in order to complete the 3 stars, you know, you need to keep all 5 champions alive. So we need to keep that in mind. If that is going to be the boss that they're going to pick, then we need some way of being able to either revive or keep our champions alive. So what I want to do in this video is basically look at the champion options available and actually try to cherry pick the most ideal team, which is also the most accessible or the most balanced for a lot of people. Now you can see from my faction screen here, I have pretty much got the faction. Beyond some of the new epics, like I was trying to get my hands on a Creodon, I haven't been able to yet, and Wiranon, and some of the legendaries in terms of Kleidner and King Galkaba, I have pretty much got all of the champions here that I can use to basically sort of test things, have a little look, and I've built some of the champions that I think are actually going to be very good. Now, there are some champions in here that I think are actually totally worthless, that I wouldn't even care about even if I had them. But there are other champions here which I think are absolutely god tier. So let's take a look first. I think the first thing you've got to note is the legendary champions in this faction don't actually have many good damage dealers. The only one they really have is Aileel. Maybe there's a bit of King Galkaba damage you could potentially do. Maybe Green Ward and Ruark, considering he's defense based and he does do an AoE. But there is no, like, you know, Bellinor. There's no hard carry legendary that we would normally see. Like if we go into Shadowkin, for example, we've got quite a few hard carry damage dealers. We've got Karata, we've got Ninja, we've got Michinaki. If we go into something like the Dwarves, we always had Trunder. We've got champions like Mountain King, Herndig. These are hard carry legendary champions. You know, we've got Ray in the Dark Elves, right? These are champions that can just hard carry your faction wars. Well, you're not going to have that in SYLVAN Watchers at all. These champions are, and to be honest, even Aileel, I'll show you in some of the play testing that we're going to be doing after we go through this list. He doesn't really have the carry potential. So what you're really looking for in the legendaries is, did you get the Oella fusion? Did you get the Elva guaranteed? Have you picked up a King Galkaba or Ruark? They will help support your team, but you do not need any of these legendaries, in my opinion. I think the only one that is really valuable more than anything else is probably Oella or Elva. Those are the 2 really, really good ones, but ultimately you can do this without any of the legendaries. And why do I say that? White Dryad Nia. White Dryad Nia is probably going to be one of the most essential champions for the faction wars, unless you use or, you know, pick up Wiranon, or you pick up this awesome looking, I gotta say, absolute amazing skin, Tree Shield Knot. And the reason why I say this is because ally protection is the key strategy for stopping the ignore defense boss, and White Dryad Nia is one of the best for it. We got this ability here. A1 is decreased speed, it'll slow the boss down. A2, we fully heal a target by 40% of their HP, and if they have skills on cooldown, we'll also reset the duration of all of those skills by 2 turns. So it's a really, it's like a single target renegade with a heal. It's very good. And then we get this ally protection with a baby strengthen on a 3-turn cooldown. But what's actually quite nice is this broad roots. Whenever this champion is healed, heals each ally except this champion by 20% of that heal. So you can use this A2 on yourself to get yourself a big AoE heal. Not so much a big, but a good AoE heal. You can put her in things like Guardian set or Bolster set, and every time she takes a turn, she's going to heal 20% of her 10% heal to all allies. So it's a 2% AoE heal. It's pretty pretty good, essentially. It's just like a nice way of topping up your team. So I think White Dryad Nia is going to be very good. Now let's go through some of the epics that I think are absolutely kind of like ignorable here. I think Ender Moonbeam is going to be ignorable. Yes, you have the Leech and the decreased defense, but it's only a single AoE, and we don't really get an awful lot else with it. So we basically get this Leech attack all enemies here with a single target decreased defense, and then a chance to extend the duration of all buffs, and then a really kind of pointless passive where she gets a little bit of speed. Now, I would say if you are lacking the options that I think are the best one, this is kind of like the A tier, the next tier down. Now, we also have champions like Cormac the High Peak. He doesn't AoE, which is his biggest problem. He's pretty good for the boss in terms of placing 100% decreased defense and a pretty good chance of placing decreased speed. He also self-buffs and gets an extra turn, but ultimately he doesn't AoE, so for a wave clear, it's pretty poor for that sense. Now, we also have Creedon the Blue. As I said, I don't have him to playtest in this video. He might be what the answer is if you cannot actually kill the waves in a comfortable manner. If you're struggling to like get through the waves, then this wave clearing potential is really good because he will freeze them up a lot. You can't freeze the bosses, although this A3 is pretty good when you get to the boss. But in terms of like controlling waves, if it's that double Valkyrie wave, then the freeze might be a good option here for you to go towards. I think Creedon the Blue is sitting in like potentially S tier, but definitely the top of A tier. Now, Dwedan the Runic has this taunt ability, and he has a bit of shielding and a bit of self counterattack. Ultimately, I think Dwedan is in the B tier. I don't think you'll use Dwedan because this taunt ability is just not good enough in most content. It just doesn't work in the extent that you want. The only good thing about him is you get a shield and increase the buff duration. But I think, again, White Dryad Nia kind of takes that support role. So Dwedan is in the B tier, quite low. And we also do have Wiranan. Wiranan would be in here if you didn't have White Dryad Nia, because you will get the increased turn meter. It is a good carry for Faction Wars. You get a decreased attack. You get a revive if you need it for that boss. Now, let's talk about the S tier of champions. We have got White Dryad Nia, Mephilic Priest Ornn, Daithi, Lockwine, and Kellen. These are what I'm calling the S tier for different reasons. We've got Ruella, absolute S tier for the boss. You get decreased defense, weaken, decreased speed, decreased turn meter, and increased turn meter. When you are on the boss floor, Ruella will probably be in your team. Number one option for the team, purely because it gives you everything you need to kill and control the boss. Ornn is going to be very good if you can't kill waves very comfortably. I think one way to do it is Ornn plus Creedon. The other way to do it is more direct damage. If you can't kill it with direct damage, Mephilic Priest Ornn, we know his solo capability. It's going to be pretty good. You could also use him on the boss to poison as well, but I think you want to try and kill the boss quicker because you don't really want him to keep attacking you and ignoring defense. We also have Lockwine, which I'm going to be testing in this video. We're going to have a look and see how good he is in terms of this resetting ability. He's got like that kind of Constantine vibe to it, where if you kill someone, you reset it. That's the same thing that Constantine A3s does. And we also do have this like AoE ability here, but I think he's going to be at the base of the S tier. But he does get a lot of accuracy, which is handy. Now, the other one I want to talk about is Kellen the Shriek. Looks really awesome, right? I mean, looks like some sort of woodland ranger. So the reason why I'm including Kellen the Shriek in S tier is because of this ability. One enemy 2 times. The first hit has a 75% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 50%. This is basically an upgraded Elf Guard, but also the second ability has a decreased speed and you get perfect veil, so you won't get attacked by the boss. This is insane for the boss. You also get a pretty nasty nuke if you can get some sort of debuffs out on a lot of enemies, and also we get a weaken on the A1. We have this like ignore shields, but that's not really relevant in most cases, but it's this A2 for the boss. Drop the turn meter by 50%, put a decreased speed on, and then add damage on top. But I will tell you right now, the absolute MVP, the S tier champion in this faction, excluding all of these epics, rares, and legendaries, is Mistrider Daithi. He is an absolute, he will be the champion you want to level and upgrade for this faction wars. He's an absolute god at clearing waves. He will carry you through all of the dungeons, all of the stages, all of the different levels of Faction Wars. He is the champion you want to level. So what makes Mr. Daithi so special? We get this guaranteed increase attack and increase accuracy. There are not many increase attack options in this faction, so this increase attack and increase accuracy on himself is really good. It's a 4-turn cooldown, but he gets an extra turn. Next up, he does an AoE drop defense. The one thing you need for carrying you through Faction War stages. AoE 100% charge drop defense. If he places drop defense on all enemies, he will get himself another extra turn. Not only that, on his A1, he has a 60% chance of removing one buff from the target, and also more chances to get extra turn. So you put him in Relentless because every time you get a guaranteed extra turn, it gives you another opportunity to roll Relentless because they roll separately. So when you watch the runs that we're going to simulate in Doom Tower in the next phase of this video, you'll see how many turns he can just keep constantly getting and how he can really just carry the team. He'll do so much damage. He'll out-damage Ailil. He'll out-damage all the other champions. He also has accuracy 40 in all battles, which is helpful because that combined with his increased accuracy means you don't really need to run much accuracy to land this decreased defense. You can just go all out damage. So a special mention to some of the rares, because obviously, you know, I don't want to make this just all about the epics and the legendaries. You will probably use the epics more than you will use any others. Kate is not a bad option for putting things on cooldown, but it's not the best champion in the game. If you don't have a White Dryadnir, you might want to go towards a Margrave, but 25% is a big difference. He does have a provoke in here, but yeah, Margrave is kind of like the other option for ally protection. The new Lone Braid Rehab actually hits quite hard. He doesn't do too bad. He does give you a decreased defense weaken, although it's small. He does hit reasonably hard, and it's kind of like a budget Ruella, for a better word, because you get that decreased defense and weaken. You also get like Terminator on the A1, but it's not as good as Ruella. And Shadow Bow Tirlak, actually quite good for various different things. You get a 3-turn increased speed. We get a decreased attack. We get a Veil on all allies except this champion. And we also decrease the damage. If you need more sustainability, Tirlak will be the way to go. And again, if you don't have White Dryadnir, then Tree Shield Not is probably an option for you for that reviving. He also has the aura for speed. And I don't think there are any others apart from Wiranon who has a better aura for speed here, because Lockwine is Arena, so you can't use that. And all of these champions, I mean, we could use Elva. So apart from Elva and Wiranon, Not is the only one that has the speed. But we're pretty much going to be focusing on the epics because most people will have those. So let's just have a look at a few options here. So I'm probably going to be using Oella. It's a fusion. I think it's reasonably accessible if you did the fusion. She is the support linchpin. She's going to heal your team, boost your team. She just keeps it going. And I'm also going to be using White Dryadnir for protection. This is what I think you'll need to run for the 21 stage. You could probably drop White Dryadnir for more AoE potential in terms of sort of combining Daithi with Ailil if you've got him, or combining it with more AoEs like Lockwine with Kellan. You don't need Nia for all the stages, but you will need her for the boss stages, probably. Obviously, I could run Elva if I want to. I just feel like Oella is a better version of Elva for the various different things. So we're going to just do a quick test here. I'm going to show you what I will probably be running for the boss. This is my team that I will probably be running for the boss. We have Kellan the Shriek for turn meter control with Ruella. We have damage from Kellan and Ruella and Daithi. We've got Oella healing us and keeping us alive. And we've also got White Dryadnir for the protection. We're going to put that accuracy in. Doesn't really matter. That's the only one we can use, just for some more accuracy. Now, obviously, we haven't got it open yet. So what I'm doing, I'm just showing you a simulation of the team that I would be running. So we'll run a very tanky high Oella. We can then just do this with Mr. Daithi. This is why Mr. Daithi is really good. Put some protection out there. We'll get the boost out. So we're fully buffed up. And then we can run in with a nice AoE from Kellan. Helps with the damage. We extend the buffs with Oella. That's what's really valuable about Oella, is you get buff extension. And you'll see pretty much this team is incredibly tanky. White Dryadnir took a bit of a beat in there. That's fine. It's not a problem. And this is what you're going to see now. Extra turns. Extra turns. This is what makes him so good at this job. Extra turns. He's just going to carry the team. I cannot speak highly enough of Mr. Daithi. I've got him on both accounts. I've used him in Clan Boss. He is just so good. You can see here now we're going to get extra turns. We're going to get more extra turns. I have him in a Relentless set because this is the value you get in Relentless set. Put him with Cycle of Revenge so you get those procs. And then we get this heal up, and you can see we get an AoE heal even though we healed on the White Dryad Nia there. So that A2 heal with a healing set can get you an AoE heal. I'll show you the builds after I finish this run, but this is stage 1 of sort of Doom Tower hard. So these are kind of like reasonably strong waves to be fighting into. Now, this is the value of this ability. We can target this, drop the turn meter, and then place decreased speed. We resisted because we haven't got the accuracy on here, but that's kind of, you build it with a more accuracy. So that's pretty much the first test here. Now let me just show you why I don't rate Aileel for this combo. I'm going to take that champion out here. I'm going to use Lockwine as well in this team, and we're basically going to run with Aileel. So Aileel has an AoE ability, which doesn't place decreased defense unless it removes buffs, which is the biggest problem. We have an A2, which ignores all these effects, and then we have an A1, which can steal buffs. And then we have this like passive that, you know, he fills it. So my Aileel is running incredibly slow because I'm going to buff him so much he doesn't need the speed. So he's at 6.5k attack, 271% crit damage, but this passive is going to fill his turn meter a lot when we get buffs. That's how I've kind of got him built. So he's only level 40 at the moment because I've only just got him. But let me just show you the difference in terms of strength. The problem with this team is we don't have decreased defense. Obviously, Mr. Adadaithi will provide the decreased defense. So when we do the AoE, it's peanuts. It's not good. That's Lockwain's ability there. So you can see the problem. I mean, even if we basically replay it and we kind of use his A2 or his A1, it doesn't really get any better. He just doesn't have the damage that I think is going to be necessary to be able to clear the waves. Mr. Adadaithi is way better than this Void Legendary. Now, I just want to show you the value of Lockwine. He can be a nice wave cleanup after Mr. Adadaithi because we can basically set it up here. We get that extra turn. We get the extra turn here. And then we can basically come in and we can go, okay, well, we want to just reset. So we can either pick on this champ here. See, we can get close to it. Now, if he doesn't get a kill, he's not going to reset his ability, but White Dryad Nia can reset his ability. So I think definitely, like you can see, no matter what I do, I always gravitate back towards Mr. Adadaithi. He's just such a strong champion. Now we can obviously reset it here, kill that, reset. He's a bit like a cleanup crew. That's the way I would look at Lockwine. His AoE isn't as good. Like I'll show you the quality of his A2 when we get set up here. Okay, so we can set up the run now. We can basically set it up with Mr. Adadaithi, drop defense. Hopefully Mr. Adadaithi doesn't do his usual and just goes on an extra turn killing rampage. So we can kind of see a bit of an example now of how strong is his AoE potential. So we've got this AoE, attacks all enemies, has a 25% chance of removing Veil. There's no Veil to remove. Has a 75% chance of removing one random buff from all enemies. It just doesn't pack the same level of punch because he hasn't got increased attack. And that's generally the problem. There's not a lot of increased attack champions in this faction that can do it on an AoE setting. What's so good about Mr. Adadaithi is he does it, he buffs himself. Let's close this out. Let's have a look at a few builds that I was just talking about here. And then, as I said, I think my boss killing 21 team is going to be this setup here. This is the team that I'm going to be using, is this team. We get good turn meter control between Kellen the Shriek and Ruella. We get decreased speed on both of them. We get double drop turn meters. We get decreased defense, weaken, get some damage from Kellen. Mr. Adadaithi is going to carry us through all of the waves. And then White Dryad Nia in Guardian set or Bolster set, doesn't really matter which one you go for. And Owella in that kind of tanky set to keep your team alive. So I've recently just rebuilt Owella into Stalwart Defiant. It's actually really good for most dungeon content. It probably won't help us an awful lot for the Sylvan Watchers build. But we can see she's at 4.6k defense, 66k HP, 244 speed. And then you can build enough accuracy because, again, she's a 100% chance if you book her, decrease speed. Slowing the waves and bosses down is one of the key ways you beat this content. She's got a bit of resistance. That's to basically cover her for Ice Golem. And I'm not running anything. I'm just basically running this timely intervention because I just want her to get back to this A2 and A3 ability. You get a increased turn meter by 30% and increased resistance. You also get a heal all allies by 30% and a increase the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. So again, if you heal White Dryad Nia by 30% of her HP, she's going to take 20% of that 30% and heal it to all allies. So you basically get more than 30% healing here. You also get the continuous heals on the passive. So if White Dryad Nia takes a big chunk, then she's going to get continuous heals. That's going to be 20%. that White Dryad passive is very, very strong. So that's Owella. We can have a look at the Aileel build. He is only level 40, so he's going to get stronger. But even at this position now, he's at 6.5k defense attack, 271% crit damage. We don't really have any masteries on him yet, and he's, of course, not booked. So there's potential, like, growth. There's a lot more damage we could get out of it if we wanted to. But he's not able to beat Mr. Adaithi right now. And Mr. Adaithi he's not rocking an insane build. He's rocking a good build. Let's see if we can find him here. He's at 3-star. Mr. Adaithi is rocking 5.3k attack and 271% crit damage. So he already has 1,000 less attack. He's already performed better than the Aileel. And it's mainly because he gives himself increased attack. Like, we'll go through the faction just before the end of the video to see if there's anyone else that does an AoE increased attack, but I don't think there is. So this increased attack will really help you kill waves. We've got him built in a clan boss setting, but really I want him to reset his abilities as many times as possible. So we've got Cycle of Magic. We should be taking Cycle of Violence as well, so we get a cooldown reduction. If I had like built this a bit better, I would be taking Cycle of Violence because we can proc the abilities. All you need to do is proc the cooldown on one of these two abilities. You get yourself an extra turn, which gives you another chance of Relentless. Relentless with guaranteed extra turns is incredibly powerful. The other champions we play tested here, we got a White Dryad Nia. I don't even know if she's fully built. Yeah, I've got her in a bolster set. She's not crazy built at the moment because I haven't upgraded her. She's in filler pieces. But again, you just want HP, defense. The larger the HP pool, the more that she's going to heal with an Owella because it's all based off her HP. Same as this ability is all based off the target's HP. So if you have a big HP White Dryad Nia, you'll get more healing to your team. Next up, we've got Kellen the Shriek. It's in Savage. And we are sitting at 4.7k attack, 220% crit damage, and 160 speed. We're working on masteries on some of these champions. I didn't actually put masteries on for this test, but we have booked her up. So you do get a 3-turn, 100% chance, decreased turn meter and speed. You do get this bonus damage. If you ramp this up, it can hit quite hard. And we also have a weaken on the A1. Next up, we've got Lockwine. As you can see, the builds are relatively close. 4.7, 262%. A bit more crit damage here in lethal this time. And we did put some more masteries on him. And you can see, like with him, the goal is just use his A2 to clean up the show. And I think that's kind of what I would suggest. That's it. I would say the biggest takeaway from this video should be if you can get yourself a Mr. Adaithi and you haven't upgraded him in this current champion training tournament, he is the champion that I think you'll want for this faction. We have talked a little bit about Mycelic Priest Ornn. He's a very good poisoner, but I just feel like your best option, because it's an ignore defense boss, is just to literally smash it. Smash it with as much direct damage as you can. Creodon can help you with wave control if you want him. I don't have him to play test. And we haven't really looked at Ruark or King Alkaba. I don't have King Alkaba. I know he's actually quite strong to do this attack here. It's actually quite good. You do get a lot of poisons out, so maybe you can use him as a supportive role because you do get that passive healing if you can enable it. But I would definitely say Mr. Adaithi, Kellen the Shriek for the boss with Ruella, and then just try and get an Owella or an Elva support. If you don't have Mr. Adaithi, it's not like you can't do it. You will just find that the efficiency of killing waves is a lot lower. He's just so good at wave clearing. There you go. That is my review of the SYLVAN Watchers faction. I think it should be, for my account, pretty easy. I've got all the champions. Even my free-to-play has got Mr. Adaithi, so I should be able to get quite progressed because I think he's just going to be able to solo carry a lot of content. A bit like when Shadow King came out and pretty much everyone had Ninja and he was just like ripping the waves and the boss apart. It was just so much easier because of Ninja. I think Mr. Adaithi is going to be the same champion here. If you did manage to pick up one of these Owella or Elvas, it's pretty much a free win. I think it's not really a problem, especially Elva, because you've got that backup revive if you need to. She is the best reviver. We did say we would look to see if there's any increased attack champions on an AoE setting. I don't think there is. We have lots of turn meters. You know, this one is not an increased attack. Ruella doesn't, just as crit rate. We've got Mycelic Priest Ornn is only a poisoner. Mr. Adaithi does it to himself. Dwedan doesn't do it. Creodon, I think, only does speed. We've got Lockwine. He doesn't really do any increased attack. Kellen doesn't. Cormac doesn't. Kleidner, I think, is only decreased speed and block buffs. Pretty much a Sand Devil champion, but nothing else. He doesn't do it for himself. Searsha just does burns. Green Warden Ruark is an increased defense on himself, but nothing else. Nothing else there. Oella is not an increased attack. King Galkaba is not an increased attack. Elva is block buffs and increased speed. So yeah, there isn't actually an AoE increased attack option in this faction, which does make a big difference here, because not having the increased attack buff means all other attack-based champions like Ailil is just going to be 50% weaker than your Mr. Rider Daihi. So it doesn't matter how strong I build Ailil, Daihi is always going to outdamage him because he self-buffs. So there you go, guys. Mr. Rider Daihi is the god of Sylvan Watchers. Let me know in the comments below what your team looks like it's going to be. Is there any particular champions I haven't talked enough about that you think are actually going to be really, really good? Or are you on board the Daihi train like I am and going to be putting all of your resources into that? Now is a good time to level some of these. There's a champion training going on for the fusion. You might as well use some of that to basically get the champs prepped for Sylvan Watchers. And as always, guys, if you haven't finished it and you're close to finishing Faction Wars and you want your Lydia, if the faction opens, Lydia's going to get pushed back. So try and complete it as quickly as you can. If you can't, well, you'll just have to wait an extra couple of weeks. I don't think it's going to be that difficult. What you generally find with new factions, the champions are much better quality, so they're easier to complete the Faction Wars. There you go, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.